You know when you read something and you're like, I'm going to have to deal with this for a really long time? Like, I woke up this morning, no clue. I was good. Life was good, happy. And then something appears and you read it, you see it, you run into it, it talks to you, and you go, I'm going to have to deal with that for a long time. Well, that got dropped on me the other day. Somebody's going by my window with apparently a jet engine. But that happened to me because the Telegraph, out of absolutely nowhere, drops this tweet. Exclusive. Blue cards to be introduced for football sin bins, with players removed from field for 10 minutes for cynical fouls or dissent, according to their investigative reporter, Ben Rumsby. So shout out, Ben, for just, why? I was having a perfectly normal day, and then you just come out with that. Now, I started my stream. I stream on Twitch, obviously, and I started my stream, and I started talking about how I thought this was a good idea. I thought it was a good idea. I'm wearing this jersey for a reason, right? And I want you, if you are about, like, you feel the flames coming off the tips of your fingers, right? You feel a boiling anger. You feel a seething resentment. I've worn this jersey for a reason. I acknowledge that I am American. I am generally an outsider to the world's game. I say soccer to my friends in private. But I caution you not to go to the comments section quite yet, because there is some personal development that has occurred from the moment that I thought this was a good idea to now. I have developed as a human being. I've leased more space upstairs to people that have better ideas and more thoughts on better educated thoughts on this than I do, because I'm just a dude. And so I go onto the stream and I think this is a good idea. Now, there is an issue in the modern game, apparently, that this is trying to address. Now, I think I pulled that tweet. Like, the idea is the blue card is going to slot in between the yellow and the red card. Whether it becomes law or not, something has to be done to combat the abuse that is driving referees from the game, right? So the same way that I talked about in the video about Mykhailo Mudryk responding to a DM, there is an epidemic of people just hurling utter nonsense at people that are involved in football, whether it be the players, the coaches, the referees, very clearly. And the referees never get any of the praise, really. I mean, it's got to be 1% praise and 99% nonsense. The really damaging nonsense that's being hurled at you, your family. I mean, there's that video of the one referee trying to get out of an airport, and he starts to get mobbed, and they're like trying to grab his family and stuff. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. Why would you want to become a referee in those situations? You have to either have like a fetish for that, or you're immune to it. And most people are not immune to it. So the idea of a blue card is then to address the fact that there is this rising amount of abuse. And obviously that would be from the players specifically, and I use that to talk about society more broadly, but I think the abuse the players are throwing at the referees is reflective of society's just overall abuse of the referees. If you are watching this video and you think you could referee a Premier League game, like right now, you think you could referee a Premier League game, you're wrong. I just, like, on behalf of society, I would like to inform you that you're wrong. They have to run with world-class athletes, make split-second decisions. You almost never have, even if you're in the right position, the exact right angle to see how much force or whether the jersey was grabbed or whatever. And you are also doing it in front of a coliseum of people that are just waiting for you to mess up one time. And then they're going to boo you and threaten to kill your entire family, right? Like, this is a really hard job to do. And I was thinking that the blue card was going to help them do that, because a red card is a monster decision, particularly if you get a red card wrong, or if you decide that a red card is inevitable because of the laws of the game. It's huge. It changes the entire game for the whole game. The earlier it happens in a match, obviously, the more catastrophic the effect is of the red card. So the idea, to me, of introducing a blue card, which would remove a player from the field for 10 minutes, made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense because it offered the opportunity for a referee to not go all the way to a red card, but say, hey, that was a pretty sick infraction. Like, you probably shouldn't have done that. Maybe you shoulder checked somebody too hard. Maybe you accidentally bumped the referee when you were arguing. Yeah, okay, get in the sin bin, right? It is directly between, in my mind, a yellow and a red as a way to punish a team, punish a player without going all the way to the nuclear red card option. So it worked. I was like, this is going to make sense. This wouldn't be the first major sport to incorporate this type of thing. It works incredibly well in ice hockey, where you can get thrown out of the game, but it's rare. Normally, you're just putting guys in what is called the penalty box for 2 minutes, which is totally functional. And it's worked for that sport for as long as I can remember. And yeah, I watch a lot of ice hockey. We got a lot of sports going on over here, okay? I'm not just a soccer football guy. Now, I went on stream with that idea. We had some productive discussions about how the card is going to be applied and when it would be suitable to do it. Can you accumulate multiple blue cards? Of course, me being me, who's just the same as you being you, I have no answers to those questions. We're just asking them. We're being good, productive internet people asking those questions. But then this news reached managers. Now, managers, they're actually in the arena, right? The whole Teddy Roosevelt, I don't know if you've ever heard this whole Teddy Roosevelt thing, but the idea of this very long, old, early 1900s sounding quote is that if you're in the arena, you get to have the say, right? It's the people outside the arena that don't get to have the say because they're not getting their face muddy or whatever the actual quote is. But if these people are in the arena, these people are managing at the highest level. So you have Ange Postecoglou comes out and in between 27 mates says that the blue card would actually really ruin the game. And for a reason that I had never thought of before he said it. And that is, strategically, if you're a manager and you get a blue card, you're just going to time waste for 10 minutes while that guy's in the sin bin, which works in ice hockey because in ice hockey, there are only 5 outfield players. But when there are 10 outfield players, 9 if you get a blue card, or in ice hockey you get 4, right? You still have a much better chance of being able to hang on the ball, be able to time waste, where in ice hockey, you can't really hang on to the puck. The other team has a much more statistically significant one-player advantage and is able to they're able to get the puck. And so power plays, as they are called in ice hockey, are incredibly action-packed. I was thinking it would be the same sort of situation in football, in soccer, that you would get this action-packed experience. But you think about the way a team plays after they get a red card. You'd be getting small doses of that throughout the match. Now, the only counter-argument to what Ange Postecoglou is saying, which really swung me to the side of we don't need blue cards, we just need to enforce yellow and red cards more along the same lines. But the only counter-argument to that is that, well, if you give them a red card, they're going to have to time waste the entire game. If you give them a blue card, they're only going to time waste for 10 minutes. Like, that is the counter-argument to it. But the truth is, we don't know. And so what I think they should do with this blue card is they should actually test it in youth leagues. Go to the youth in the Youth Champions League and start using the blue card and see how it actually plays. Because I think with some of this stuff, you have no idea what effect it has. And if it has the effect that Ange Postecoglou is talking about, where it just makes the game suck more, then I will be so anti this. Don't do it. It would be terrible for the game. And he also said, I want to bring attention to something else that Ange Postecoglou said. He said that it's adding more clutter to the game. Every other sport in the world is trying to reduce clutter and make the game faster, where soccer or football is trying to apparently go in the opposite direction. That I 100%, without a doubt, agree with him on. I think the application of VAR has been clunky. That has slowed the game down so much. And as an American, where normally that doesn't give me ground to talk about freaking anything with most of you people, because I see the analytics. Most of you people, you're not in the United States, so you don't necessarily understand what I'm about to talk about. I fell in love with football, with soccer, because it was different from the NFL, from MLB, from NHL, from NBA, where you review whether one atom of somebody's shoe was out of bounds, or whether one iota of a football, an American football, happened to touch the ground while the player was trying to catch it, right? You will look at reviews nonstop for days. I loved soccer and football because the clock just kind of went. It didn't have to end exactly. In the NBA, if a team's winning by 30 points and the ball goes out of bounds with a second left, they will stop the game and make you inbound the ball again. In soccer, there's no end to the clock in football or soccer. It's fluid. It's up to interpretation. The referee has control over the flow of the game. Now, do I think a blue card would ruin that? Potentially. But what it would absolutely do is clutter the game more. I would absolutely add to this issue of VAR. They're already struggling to enforce that. Now you're going to pile in a third freaking card. At the very least, if this is introduced, they're going to need to introduce it 15 years from now, after they've tested it for years and years, and once everybody's figured out how to do VAR. If you still feel like there's a need for the blue card 15 years from now, then freaking do it. But the issues that Ange Postecoglou, and he's not the only one, Jurgen talked about this, but he basically just called IFAB an idiot, right? Like, those are the people making the decisions, very Jurgen, but also he's retiring. He can say whatever the hell he wants. I guess he's not retiring, but he's leaving. And so they've all been echoing these same sentiments that changed my mind. I changed my mind. Probably need more of that in the world. Maybe I'm just trying to hype myself up and make myself look cool, even though I was wrong with my first take. I think blue cards would be terrible. Don't bring them in anytime soon. And if you do bring them in, test it for 10 years and make sure it actually improves the game while giving these guys time to figure out how to work VAR and figure out when they're supposed to apply the cards and everything. Because the game's already gotten clunky enough. I don't want any more of it. All right. Those are blue cards, by the way, in case you didn't know. See you on stream.